They want the double dribble, not called. Fight for that. So, who goes it?
Look, the Spurs just saved the entire NBA. And yeah, I know this reaction is coming out a little late, but honestly, can you blame me? I was out here celebrating. Wembanyama literally flipped the script on everybody. We already saw that leaked script from earlier suggesting the Thunder were supposed to be heading to the finals. And after what happened in Game 7, this basically confirms that Adam Silver pays attention to public sentiment, because when the narrative gets exposed, things have a way of correcting themselves. Think about it. When I said that if the Thunder stumbled their way into the finals, nobody outside of New York would be tuning in, I meant that. Nobody wants to watch manufactured basketball in the biggest series of the year. Once the public caught on to how predictable things were looking, Game 7 suddenly got officiated like an actual basketball game. And here's what I noticed. Tony Brothers was nowhere near that court for Game 7. The moment I saw who wasn't officiating, I already knew where this was headed. When certain referees aren't on the floor, it changes the entire dynamic of the game. That's when I placed $300 on the Spurs. Now, I want to be clear, I don't promote gambling, but when your read on a situation is that strong, sometimes you back it. And Wembanyama just turned that into $400 in my pocket. So yeah, I went ahead and ordered his jersey. I'll show you when it arrives. Once you understand how this league operates, patterns become a lot easier to spot. All right, let's actually get into Game 7. Watch Wembanyama walking into that tunnel. The composure, the presence, the aura, call it whatever you want, but this man is genuinely special. I don't throw around those kinds of statements, and I definitely don't go out buying jerseys for just anybody. In the last 10 years, the only NBA jersey I ever bought was LeBron's. Yesterday, I bought Wembanyama's. That should tell you everything. Right out of the gate, Wembanyama was imposing his will. Within the first 3 minutes, it was already clear that Holmgren had no answer for him. Baptized, that's the only word for it. And honestly, from that moment forward, I knew the result was going to be one-sided. Holmgren is going to have a hard time recovering from this performance. This was the kind of Game 7 that follows a player. He's going to need some real time away from social media after this one. And based on what we saw, the friction between him and Wembanyama is genuine. You can see it in how Holmgren plays when Wembanyama is locked in. There's a hesitation there that didn't exist earlier in the season. As soon as Wembanyama got into takeover mode, Holmgren reverted to drawing fouls, weak contact, leaning into plays, the kind of stuff that only works when the officiating is tilted in your favor. But not tonight. The refs weren't bailing him out, and it showed every single possession. Wembanyama pulling up from 3 in transition like it's a routine play, that's a 7'5" human being doing things that shouldn't be physically possible, and Holmgren genuinely had no idea how to guard it. Meanwhile, Shai was trying to work his usual foul drawing sequences, but without the favorable whistle, none of it was converting. On the other side, Alex Caruso was doing what Caruso does, finding every edge, getting under guys' skin, making life difficult for Stephen Castle on every play. Dylan Harper had to step in to keep things from boiling over. Caruso was one of those players who survives purely on effort and physicality. In a different era, that style of play wouldn't even get you a roster spot. And yet again, Shai went to the pump fake and fall routine. No call. Hands were straight up, the contact wasn't there, and the refs weren't manufacturing anything tonight. That was Game 7, and Wembanyama made sure nobody forgot who the best player on that floor was. And of course, Shai had no business getting rewarded there. He elbows Stephen Castle and somehow ends up at the free throw line. That's the kind of call that makes no sense when you actually watch the playback. Flopper, plain and simple. Nobody wants to see that style of basketball in the finals. And honestly, the right team ended up moving on. Then Wembanyama gave them a taste of their own medicine, drew the contact, sold the foul, and the crowd lost it. When the best player in the world decides to flip the script on you and beat you at your own game, that's a different kind of statement. That's Wembanyama telling the entire league he's studied everything and he can do it all. And then there was Alex Caruso actually attempting to attack the rim against Wembanyama. With all due respect, that is one of the most ill-advised plays you will ever see in a playoff game. You do not challenge a 7'5" shot blocker with that kind of vertical. That attempt should have never happened, and the results were exactly what anyone watching could have predicted. But the single biggest momentum swing of the entire game, and honestly one of the most important plays of this entire playoff run, was Zach Collins turning back the clock and swatting Holmgren's shot clean off the backboard. Nobody saw that coming. The building erupted. That one play completely shifted the energy of the game, and after that, it was essentially over. It had the same kind of impact as LeBron's iconic chase-down block in 2016 finals, and that is not an exaggeration. Then Devin Vassell came in and put the finishing touches on it. Game over. All right, let's get straight into the box score. No time to waste. Julian Champagnie dropped 20 points in Game 7, 6 threes in a Game 7. That man was absolutely locked in, and if you've been following this team closely, you knew he had this kind of performance in him. When players get consistent minutes and real confidence, this is what happens. You welcome Champagnie. Wembanyama finished with 22 points, 7 rebounds, and 1 block, but those numbers don't even tell the full story. If you watched this game live, you saw what he was doing defensively all night long. Holmgren was visibly uncomfortable every single time Wembanyama was anywhere near him. We'll get into that in a second. De'Aaron Fox put up 15 points and 5 assists. Solid performance. Vassell finished with 11 points, 1 3, 6 rebounds, and 3 assists, and held his own defensively. Steady night from him. Steven Castle had 16 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, and 6 turnovers. The turnovers need to get cleaned up heading into the finals, but the overall contribution was still a net positive. Harrison Barnes did his job. Keldon Johnson chipped in with 11 points. Dylan Harper came through with 12 points and 7 assists. This kid is going to be a serious problem years to come. Now, let's talk about OKC. Shai finished with 7 points and 5 rebounds in a Game 7. That is a complete disappearance on the biggest stage. Chet Holmgren played 33 minutes and finished with 4 points on 2 shot attempts. 4 points in a Game 7 elimination game. Wembanyama took everything from him. His confidence, his presence, his will to compete. Performances like that don't just fade away after the offseason. They follow players. They shape how the rest of the league views you going forward. Nobody's going to remember last year's championship once Wembanyama starts stacking rings. And based on what we just watched, that process has already begun. Wembanyama owns Holmgren. That's just the reality now. And one last thing, don't tell anyone, but word from my sources is that Giannis could be on his way to OKC. You heard it here first. Shai finished with 35 points, and honestly, I'll give credit where it's due. He was genuinely hitting some tough contested mid-range shots throughout this game. That part was real, but he also shot 11 free throws, and a good chunk of those came from his usual foul baiting routine. Realistically, about 25 of those were earned through actual shot making. The rest came from the line. Credit for the shot making, but the foul fishing never stopped. Dort finished with 3 points. He will not be on this roster next season. At this point, he's essentially a trade asset, the kind of player you package in a deal to land someone bigger. Isaiah Hartenstein was actually putting in work though, made 5 threes, grabbed 7 rebounds, added 4 assists. He showed enough to keep his spot on this team heading into next year. Jalen Williams somehow put together a double-double, but once this game got out of reach, those stats stopped mattering. He came in riding all that confidence from the season, clearly expecting a back-to-back, and then reality hit. Alex Caruso finished with 12 points on 3 of 14 shooting, 1 3 out of 6 attempts. When you can't draw cheap fouls and you actually have to create your own shot, this is what happens. 3 of 14. That's the real Alex Caruso without a friendly whistle. Cason Wallace had 4 points. Quiet night. Nothing to build on there. I still can't believe the Wembanyama Finals Edition jersey sold out in 5 minutes. I was on the website the second that final buzzer sounded, and it was gone. Bots are buying up NBA jerseys now. That's where we are in 2026. But I still locked in a regular jersey, so that's what matters. It's on the way. Here's the bigger picture though. Wembanyama just saved the NBA. Think about what the alternative looked like. Shai with back-to-back championships on his resume and every kid on every playground around the world learning how to flop their way to a foul call instead of developing real skills. Wembanyama saved us from that reality. And this man is only 22 years old. He just led the San Antonio Spurs to the NBA Finals in his 3rd professional season. For context, LeBron James, widely considered one of the greatest to ever play this game, did not reach the finals in his 3rd year. Wembanyama is doing things on a timeline that has no real comparison. Now, if the Knicks somehow win the finals, I think we all know what that conversation is going to look like, but that's not happening. Adam Silver will probably push it to 7 games for the ratings, just like he did in the Western Conference Finals. But at the end of this, Wembanyama is walking away with his first championship ring. I've been saying it all season. The trajectory is undeniable. Wembanyama isn't just the future of this league, he's already its present, and we're all watching history happen in real time.